like to start just by, first of all, thanking IYN for putting on this day. I think this kind of day is really, really important, bringing people together to talk about these sorts of subjects, and particularly also thanking Debbie and the team for all the work that they have put in. It's absolutely amazing, the amount of work that's gone in, so thank you very much for that. And perhaps also just to say, Debbie, that I know a lot of people have travelled north to come here, but some of us have actually travelled south. So, just mentioning that. Okay. Ellen's talk was very personal, and the talk that I'm going to be presenting on behalf of the EUY is going to be very much a collective vision. So what I'm going to be presenting to you this morning are views from the delegates of the EUY. So all the member federations of the EUY have delegates who work on their behalf and represent them at the EUY. So we gathered feedback from all these delegates, and there'll be some just extracts, some very short quotations from their feedback. It wouldn't be possible to give you all of that feedback, but hopefully give you a bit of a feel for the organisation. I'm going to begin by saying a few words about the EUY, because I know that many of you will be familiar with it, but some of you might not be, so it might be helpful for you to know just a little bit about what this organisation is and what it does. So beginning here just with the title page, Unity and Diversity, the EUY Vision. We have here a little drawing. I don't know if it's very clear for you, but this was done by one of the delegates, really just summing up, in a sense, this idea of unity and diversity. So her idea is that around the edge of the circle here, we have lighthouses. That's what she's representing there, each sending out their beam of light, a beam of light coming into the centre, and all the beam of lights coming together in one beam of light. So that idea of people coming from different directions, having their own beam, having their own ideas, but all coming together. So I'm trying to sort of get that idea of unity in diversity. So coming forwards. Introducing EUY. So just a few words. So as you can see here, founded in 1971, so it's been around a little while, and as you can probably also see, the two working languages are French and English. So if we were doing this in an EUY context, everything would be getting translated into French, which is always an interesting experience. The organisation is run by a board, and then it has teams. There are 5 teams that carry out the work of the EUY, and these teams are made up basically of the delegates from all the organisations. It currently has 22 full members and a couple of associate members who are not full members. And the geographic spread is quite wide, so from Sicily in the south to Finland in the north, from Ireland and Portugal in the west to Ukraine in the east. So giving you a little bit of an idea of the spread of the EUY. What brings the members together is a 4-year, 500 contact hour teacher training program, and obviously we can have discussions around whether or not a 4-year, 500 hour contact hour teacher training program is what is required, but that is the basis on which members of the EUY agree. And their main activities, the main activities of the organisation are to work on that teacher training program, to organise the ZNAL Congress, which of course many of you would have heard of and may have attended, so an annual congress that's taken place every year in ZNAL in Switzerland, every year in August, and lots of exchanges between the member federations. So new federations that come in, always very keen to learn from the federations who have been members for a long time. Okay, moving on. Just a few words about the EUY vision and values. So the EUY sees itself as a reference point for yoga tradition. It seeks to be the organisation that protects and advances the essence of yoga traditions, and authentic teaching of yoga is very important for it. And it seeks to be a guardian of quality yoga teaching. The things that are important in that, So the EUY does tend to put an emphasis on the long training. So I mentioned the 4 years as being important. The idea behind that being that this gives time to for practice to mature and deepen and for knowledge to be assimilated. Very much a non-commercial approach to yoga, and the members of the board and the delegates obviously are all volunteers, just like at the IYN. And yoga also seen very much as a spiritual practice, not simply a physical one. Okay, so what is yoga? Some definitions. So these are the people, or some of the people who have provided us with these definitions. So here are the delegates, or most of the delegates in Paris earlier this year at one of the EUY meetings. One of the first definitions that came through, here we are in Zinal, so we're in the mountains, near the Swiss mountains, you can see, for an early morning class with Maurice Daubat. One of the very first definitions that came through is that yoga is experience, not theory. And just a couple of quotations from the delegates. Yoga is a state of being that can only be experienced. When fully experienced, unutterable, yoga is secret, and yet all can reach it. And a third one, yoga is an experiential philosophy. There are three approaches there to this idea of yoga is experience, not theory. And experience, that's experience of yoga, of course, can very often lead us to yoga is stillness. And we're in Zinal again here with some rather nice outdoor yoga with a Finnish teacher. Once again, just some quotations from the delegates to illustrate that. It is only when our mind stops and everything becomes silence that the state of yoga is. Another delegate reflected, very often I stop for a minute, I feel life flowing through me, I say thank you. So again, that idea of stillness, slowing down, quietness. And finally, I see yoga as an invitation to decelerate. Ellen mentioned about slowing down and quieting down. Yoga encourages us not to be afraid of sitting with what is. Yoga supports us in cultivating openness to and understanding of the beauty and terror of our human existence. So that idea of deceleration that was mentioned there in that final quotation, leading, I think, very often to self-knowledge. So once we actually slow down, once we find that stillness, coming to a level of self-knowledge. One of the lakes up in the mountains in Zinal again. So you can see that Zinal is quite important in terms of the EUY, and you do get lovely pictures. So again, the first one, that idea of picking up that idea of deceleration again. The more we take a moment to stop, the more we might see who we truly are. The gift of deceleration is that our very own essence becomes successively more visible. So the more we slow down, the more we become aware of ourselves, the more we see who we actually are. Yoga is clarity. It teaches me to know myself better and to learn to see things as they really are. So again, that idea that slowing down, finding stillness might bring clarity and might bring greater self-knowledge. And again, a third quotation again from another delegate. Yoga is the irresistible centripetal power, meaning the power that brings to the center. I didn't know that, I had to look that up. Yoga is the irresistible centripetal power which, whether we wish it or not, leads us back to our origin. So again, that idea of coming back to something, not actually going somewhere new, but actually coming back to something that's already there. Skipping through all of that. Okay. And that self-knowledge, of course, what comes through often when we get to know ourselves better is that idea that there is maybe yoga is union, yoga is unity in diversity. Yoga unites the physical and the mental and facilitates the connection between the individual and the surrounding world. One realizes that individuality is an idea. Universality is not an idea, it is a reality. And again, a third one, it is the detached practice which leads to unity and at the same time is in itself unity. So yoga is unity and at the same time leads to unity. But so that unity, that union, that unity in diversity, then for many delegates leads to ethical action, the desire to act, the desire to do something. Yoga is the goal, the means, the path. When truly practiced, it offers purpose to the human life. And a second quotation, I consider yoga to be a discipline that is intended to improve human conditions in a practical sense. Yoga only fulfills its purpose when it becomes fully alive in and through us. Put simply, yoga is love with its work boots on, which I really like that final sentence. It's not just love, it is love, but it is love with its work boots on, so it gets on with doing stuff, which I think is lovely. So alongside that ethical action, we have also, of course, non-attachment, acceptance of the things that we can't maybe do anything about, that we can't act on, which maybe are beyond us. And on that, delegates reflected by saying, yoga is a state of presence which says an unconditional yes to what is. No rejection, no attachment, but feeling the space of infinite awareness in which all experiences occur as if they were really the self. And also Ishvara Pranidhana, feeling that I am at one with the flow of life. I try not to oppose what life is suggesting that I experience. I try to say yes to life. That non-attachment maybe helps to cultivate harmony. Yoga is harmony. And we're back in now, back up at Sorbois in morning practice. So yoga is harmony. And for one delegate, yoga enables us to bring into harmony relationships, lifestyle, the body, energy, emotions, the mind, the soul, awareness. For another, yoga is a universal link between the microcosmos and the macrocosmos, aiming at the balance and harmony of being. And for a third, quite simply, yoga is health, in whatever way you'd like to understand the word health. Along with harmony comes maybe, for some of us, for many of us, again, some of the delegates there with Ravi Ravinda back in Sinal again, yoga is joyfulness. And one delegate gave an example of where that joyfulness comes from for him. He says, yoga incarnates the principles of wisdom which lead to peace and joyfulness of being. This joy in being has to be cultivated. And I've discovered that chanting brings me joy. So every day I chant. That's his way of finding joyfulness in yoga, and it will be maybe other things for other people. That joyfulness, for many of us, might lead us to spirituality, and for many people, yoga is spirituality. Yoga helps us to make an indispensable reconnection to our awareness and to the soul of the world. Another delegate said, individuals develop awareness of the universal intelligence working through them. And also, in psychological terms, we could say that our soul begins to show. Yoga initiates soul making. So coming back to the EUY, and maybe just summing up, with the hope that some of those quotations that you just heard there from the delegates maybe are in some way illustrating the vision, the values that the EUY hopes to uphold. That idea of slowing down, longer courses, taking time for knowledge to be assimilated, for practice to mature, the connections between yoga organisations, which obviously are very much at heart what the EUY does, the ethical action that the board and the delegates are all embarked upon, the very strong respect for tradition, respect for diversity, which is again very much at the heart of the EUY, practice and experience being very important rather than simply theorising, and spirituality, which is always there in work of the delegates and of the EUY. And finally, coming maybe back to the text with which you'll all be very, very familiar, just three very short quotations, many others could have been chosen, which again I think are nice connections to the things that the delegates have been saying, the things that they fed back to us. Yoga is the ability to direct and focus mental activity, one of the many possible translations of that sutra. Yoga is skill in action, Bhagavad Gita, and reality is one, though wise men speak of it variously, bringing us back again to unity in diversity. Okay. If you'd like to find out more about the EUY, then obviously there's the website. There's also a very active Facebook page. If anybody is on Facebook and you would like to connect with the EUY on Facebook, then please do. I'd like to thank all of you for listening. Thank you for your concentration and your attention. Thanking the IYN again for giving the opportunity to the EUY to be here today. Thank you very much. And finally, coming back again to thanking all the EUY delegates here are again, this time in Ireland, who have provided the material for today's talk, and without whom it wouldn't have been possible to give you this collective vision of the EUY. So thank you very much for your time. I'm looking forward to getting the opportunity to talk a little bit more with some of you in due course when Debbie's master plan comes together. Thank you very much, and enjoy your day. Thank you.